Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back into the quiet, creaking heart of old Edo Tokyo, as we call it now back when the city was a vast wooden labyrinth, snug tightly between rivers and ridges. Flickering by lantern light, you're not a merchant or a monk or a samurai tonight. No, you're a firefighter, one of the toughest, wildest, sleep-deprived souls in this whole matchstick metropolis. The night's just ending, but the world's still draped in shadows. Cool mist slinks along narrow alleys, clinging to shoji screens and straw sandals. You wake up stiff, your back sticking slightly to the tatami mat beneath you. The room smells faintly of dried fish and smoke from last night's firewood. You sit up slow like everything here creaks. The wood floors, the beams overhead, even your knees, probably. You rub your eyes with a sleeve still dusty from the day before. You live in a cramped barracks with half a dozen other firemen your unit. Loud snores echo from a few foodons nearby. One guy's got a foot sticking out, toes wiggling in a dream. You hear the gentle clink of water being ladled in the next room. Someone's already up. Boiling rice. That'll be your breakfast if nobody knocks it over first. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your city and local time in the comments. Always curious where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Outside, the city stretches out like a sleeping animal, all dark timber and paper. Alleyways as tight as ribs, and the occasional half-muttered prayer from a nearby shrine. You yawn and tie back your underrobe, slipping your arms into the thick cotton jacket folded neatly beside your futon. The sleeves are worn, the cuffs stained with soot from past disasters. You dress slowly. There's no rush yet. As you shuffle outside, get a clacking softly on the damp wood. You see the pre-dawn fog turning the canals into silver ribbons, somewhere in the distance. A rooster crows, waited confidently. Maybe he's trying to make up for the fact that this entire city could ignite faster than a gossip. In a steakhouse, that's the reality you live with. One rogue lantern, one careless spark, and poof, you were knee-deep in smoldering rubble. Edo's wooden construction was no joke. The city, in the 18th century, was one of the largest in the world. Over 1 million people squeezed into a fire-prone jungle of pine and cypress. Everything was made of wood. Homes, bridges, bathhouses, kabuki theaters. Even the signs were painted on wooden boards. You probably won't survive this century. Fires are so frequent they have nicknames. Edo flowers, as in fire blossoms blooming across the city. Beautiful, poetic, and just slightly horrifying. You stop near the edge of a narrow bridge and lean against a railing. The water below is still. Somewhere, a rat the size of a cat scurries into a drain, probably late for a meeting. You hear the distant thud of another firefighter's boots approaching, the rhythm familiar. You grunt a greeting, no words needed yet. There's a stillness before the day starts in earnest, the smell of damp wood, a hint of miso from a vendor prepping to early, the low murmur of someone sweeping their stoop. It's peaceful in a precarious way. You know this quiet never lasts. Fires don't just happen in broad daylight, they come at night, while people sleep. That's why you barely do. Your mind drifts to last week's blaze near the tea house district. You and the crew tore down half a block just to stop the fire's path. Some folks cried, others thanked you with gifts, fish, cloth, a poem scrawled shakily on rice paper. You still have that poem tucked inside your uniform. You stretch your arms over your head. Bones pop like snapping twigs. You need to be limber today. There's always a drill in the morning. The station commander's obsessed with readiness. That, and looking dramatically heroic in front of the neighborhood girls. You step back inside briefly to grab your sash. It's dyed with your brigade's crest, a bold swirl symbolizing wind and bravery, and probably a little ego. You sling it over your shoulder like a sleepy samurai and stomp the dust off your sandals. Another day is about to begin. Historians still argue whether these early morning routines were truly for fitness, or more for symbolic unity. You suspect both. Keeps you in shape, Sure, but mostly it keeps you in sync. Like a wooden watch ticking through soot and sweat. There's a loud whistle from down the block. Someone's calling for roll. You head off, stomach rumbling faintly. The sun just beginning to cast pink streaks between the tiled rooftops. Soon, the city will stir, kids will yell, merchants will hawk, and somewhere inevitably will start to burn. But for now, it's just you, the creak of old wood beneath your feet, and the breath of a city waiting to wait. You head toward the temple square where your unit drills each morning, the mist now lifting like a stage curtain. Edo stirs around yasha-keepers unlatch wooden shutters. Old men sweep dust off doorsteps. And somewhere, a dog is already barking at absolutely nothing. The firehouse is near a Buddhist temple, its curved rooftop stretching toward the sky like a giant wooden fan. The pagoda looms nearby, shadowing the courtyard where you and your crew begin to gather. The square smells of damp cedar, stale sweat, and faint incense. You nod to a few of your crewmen still bleary-eyed, one of them trying to tuck his jacket in while walking. It's too early for conversation, but not for obedience. When the commander arrives, nobody wants to be caught lounging like a lazy carpenter. He appears right on cue, striding into the square with a stick tucked under his arm, sandals slapping smartly against stone. He doesn't yell, doesn't need to. One sharp clap of his hands and the whole unit lines up like bamboo poles in a basket. You drop into formation, flexing your shoulders under the weight of expectation. The drills begin. First, coordinated stretches, hands overhead, then down to the ground, back up in a sweeping arc. Your body protests, but you push through it. The motions are meant to keep you flexible. You'll need the flexibility when you're climbing roofs or dangling off the edge of someone's collapsing porch. Next comes strength training. Some brigades favor wooden dumbbells. Yours prefers carrying actual logs. Two-man teams lift lengths of timber and trot around the square like sweaty ants. You take your turn, grunting as you hoist the beam onto your shoulder. Your legs wobble, but you manage not to drop toward your pride. Historians still argue whether these drills were originally meant as performance or preparation. Your commander shouts, "But I say we not both." The men chuckle. He's always had a flair for drama. Now it's time for pole drills. Each of you is issued a long wooden shaft, like a spear without the point. These are used to pull down burning buildings. Pull down. You don't fight fire with water. You fight it with controlled destruction. You jab the pole forward, twist it up. Brace it against your body like you're shoving an invisible inferno back into the ground. You repeat the move again and again, sweat streaking down your temples, around you. A rhythm takes hold. Tap, twist, slam. Tap, twist, slam. The thudding echoes between wooden walls. A strange percussion beneath the birdsong and the soft gurgle of the temple's koi pond. Then come the ladder drills. These aren't modern ladders, no metal, no hinges, just wooden frames tied with rope. Lighter than you'd expect, but awkward as a drunk samurai on stilts. You and a partner hoist one and prop it against a training frame. Then comes the fun part, the climb. You scamper up like a monkey, balance at the top, and practice waving a flag. Not for decoration, these flags mark your brigade's presence at a fire. Bragging rights, mostly. You wave it lazily in the morning light, feeling the chill wind rush around you. Your toes grip the rungs. One misstep and it's a sprained ankle or worse. But you're used to the wobble by now. From up here, you can see the skyline of Edo, all brown rooftops and narrow alleys, like a woven mat of timber. Smoke curls from cooking fires, laundry flaps from lines. And somewhere you spot a cat walking across a neighbor's roof like it owns the whole city. Which, to be fair, it probably does. You climb down, boots landing solidly on the packed earth. The commander claps again, satisfied. Drills are over. You take a breath, not your first today, but the first one that feels like your lungs actually got it all. Your unit doesn't scatter yet. Instead, you circle up. Someone produces a battered wooden ice cup and starts shaking it. A few laughs. It's not gambling time yet, but a quick game to see who's on cleaning duty. You lose, of course. You grumble. but take the broom like a resigned monk. Sweeping the training ground, you catch snippets of conversation. Someone's heard that the Akabane Brigade broke a tea house door just trying to impress a crowd. Another guy claims to have eaten an eel that was still wiggling. No one believes him, but everyone listens. One of the rookies asks you seriously what happens if we can't stop a fire. The older men fall quiet, then someone shrugs. Then we pull down more houses. Or we don't go home. Nobody laughs this time, not even you. The cleaning's done. The tools are stored. You gather your things and head toward breakfast. Your belly's loud now. It knows what time it is. As you walk, your muscles hum with fatigue, but a clean, satisfying kind. You know the routines, the drills, the weight of a ladder on your shoulder. The city might be fragile, but you're solid, built like the beams you're sworn to protect, and just as stubborn. And still, there is something sobering in the air, a weight that drills can't lift. You live on the edge of a fuse. Every building you pass could be tomorrow's ash. That woman hanging laundress might run screaming tonight. That corner tea stall could be gone by sunset, and you'll be there. You always are. You're back at the barracks now, shrugging off the chill, and it's time to suit up properly. Not in armor or anything dramatic, though you'd probably love that, but in the strange, symbolic garb of an Edo-era firefighter. You glance around as your comrades dress, each following the same habitual routine, but with personal flair. It's part preparation, part preening. After all, you might be climbing into a burning building or striking a heroic pose for a crowd, possibly both before lunch. First, the hanten. It's a thick jacket, quilted and heavy, the color of midnighting. You tug it on and feel the comforting weight settle across your shoulders. These coats are usually soaked in water before entering a fire makes them a little heavier, but a lot less flammable. Yours still smells faintly of last week's smoke, like an old incense burner. You give it a shake and pat the shoulders flat. Next, you reach for your sash. Every brigade has their crest, and you wear yours proudly across your waist. It's simple, but bold, painted white against indigo, like a wave crashing in reverse. You tie it with a quick tug of someone who's done it 1,000 times, which, of course, you have. Then there's the hair. Edo firemen wear their hair in a style halfway between samurai top knot and monkish utility. You squat by the mirror, the light bouncing off the lacquered surface, and smooth your hair into place. The crown of your head is shaved, the remaining hair gathered into a tight knot. It's not just for looks, it keeps your head cool under fire. Well, in theory. Mostly, it makes your scalp sunburned when you're on roof duty. Your buddy leans over and jokes. Better roasted up there than roasted down here. You snort and flick a bit of ash at him. Tatatam. You don't actually get inked every morning, of course, but you make sure your back piece is clean and on display at least when you're off duty or strutting around town. Firefighter tattoos in Edo are more than decoration, they're identity, mythology, superstition, and swagger rolled into one ink canvas. You've got a fierce Kirin across your shoulders, hooves raised, fire licking around its mane. It's both protective charm and street cred. Some firemen wear Kenner Oboe, hero of Japanese folklore, wrestling bears and hurling demons. Others get waves, dragons, full forests of bamboo. No backs are the same, and the best ones, they get shown off during parades, bathhouse brawls, or just slow walks through town on a hot afternoon. Historians still argue whether these tattoos were a form of rebellion or religious symbolism. But either way, yours took 37 hours and a lot of grimacing. Worth it. Now fully dressed, you lean back against the wooden post and watch the others finish suiting up. You all look like a team from a woodblock print, part warriors, part performers. Edo firemen are half legend, half liability, revered by some, cursed by others, and occasionally mistaken for gangsters. Honestly, you don't mind. Someone enters the room with a fresh bundle of garments, new jackets for the rookies. You glance at the stiff cloth and smile knowingly. They'll be soaked in sweat and ash before the week is out. The youngest among you is still fumbling with his sash, knotting it backwards. You walk over and fix it without a word. He bows awkwardly. You grunt in reply. That's basically a love letter in your world. One guy's jacket sleeve tears at the seam. Another helps patch it with a scrap of indigo-dyed cloth and a few well-placed stitches. Firefighting here isn't glamorous, but there's beauty in the small repairs, visible history of every scrape and tumble stitched into your uniform like a living map. Now, the final touch, the amulet. Every firefighter carries one. Yours is a tiny wooden charm carved with a fox spiritonary, protector of hearths and rice, and, if you ask nicely, maybe your hide too. You tuck it inside your jacket, close to your heart. It's a quiet ritual, and no one speaks during it. The room hushes, just for a moment, like even the gods are holding their breath. Then someone sneezes, and the spell breaks. You all laugh. It's always the same guy. Pollen, smoke, who knows? He's just cursed to sneeze in sacred moments. You look around at your crew. These are your brothers, not by blood, but by fire. You've carried them on your shoulders, dragged them out of burning ruins, patched their cuts with your own sash. Some of them are scarred. One walks with a limp. Another still flinches whenever he hears a certain kind of bell. You all carry something, and yet the bravado remains. One of the guys starts practicing his heroic pose in front of the mirror, hand on hip, chin up. Squint like you're seeing through the smoke. Too much kabuki. Someone mutters. He just grins. Never enough kabuki. You shake your head and step outside. The sun's climbing now. The rooftops catching gold at their edges. Edo is waking fully, and the city buzzes with the quiet music of everyday life under his setting up stalls. Dogs barking at shadows, mothers calling kids back from the canal. Your get a click softly as you make your way down the wooden stairs, the rest of your unit trailing behind. You're armored not with steel, but with routine, confidence, and the peculiar pride of someone who knows they're the only line of defense between this city and a slow, smoldering collapse. You pass a mirror nailed to a post at the corner of the barracks. You catch your reflection. Just for a second, you look like a ghost from a story, a living echo in ink and wood and fire. And you're ready? You follow your nose to the mess area, where breakfast is already steaming on the brazier. The aroma is pure comfort miso broth laced with charred green onions, simmered daikon, and soft white rice that clings together just enough to be eaten with chopsticks, but not enough to hold your entire day's optimism. There's a quiet reverence around the fire as the first bowls are ladled out. You squat on your heels like everyone else, taking your portion with a grateful nod. The bowl is hot in your hands, the steam rising in twisting curls that momentarily blur the tired lines of your comrades' faces. No one talks much during breakfast, and why would they? The food is warm, the sun is rising, and the day's chaos hasn't started yet. For 5 blessed minutes, all that matters is rice, broth, and the first cup of roasted tea. Today's meal includes a salted plumster enough to make your jaw twitch, but supposedly good for your stamina. You bite it, and it does, in fact, make you briefly consider quitting your job. Then again, you're told samurai ate these before duels. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for a man who might have to drag someone out of a flaming attic. You lean against a wooden beam, bowl empty, and sip the tea slowly. The sun is higher now, warming the stone courtyard. A cat stretches lazily on the windowsill above, tail flicking like it owns the building. And honestly, this pause is precious, because soon, you'll split off into daytime rotations. Firefighting isn't just about dousing flames, you're also responsible for patrols, inspections, and constant training. Most of the time, fires don't erupt with dramatic timing. They sneak in like pickpockets, quietly, without permission, and always when you've just started enjoying something. You're assigned to the lookout patrol today. Lucky you. You and 2 others strap on your tool belts, mostly ornamental at this hour, and make your way into the maze of wooden streets. Edo is loud with commerce now. The fishmongers yell louder than their customers. Rickshaw runners weave through foot traffic. Scribes hawk love poems on rice paper. The air smells of grilled eel, sweat, pickles, and if you squint your nose, just write Simeon's overripe laundry. You move slowly, eyes scanning the skyline. Any sign of smoke means an immediate alarm. Chimneys are legal, but not everyone's good at keeping theirs clean. Sparks, cinders, forgotten lanterns, those are your real enemies. Fire doesn't need malice to ruin lives, just negligence. As you pass a noodle stall, an old woman calls out, "Boy, didn't you boys cause the ruckus in Nishiasakusa last week?" You grin. "Wasn't us. Our messes are tier." She snores and flicks a towel at you. "Try keeping your ladders off my roof this time." You tip your head respectfully. She's right, of course. During a drill last month, a young recruit knocked over her roof tiles with a misjudged swing. The tiles are still stacked nearby, waiting for some miracle craftsman to appear. You make a note to send someone later or do it yourself when no one's looking. You turn down a narrower alley now. This part of town is dense with merchant homes. The buildings lean into each other like sleepy drinkers at a festival. Paper windows slide open and closed. Children dart through shadows with spinning tops and giggles that echo like wind chimes. Historians still argue whether the city's wooden construction was a matter of tradition or necessity. Maybe both. Timber was abundant, after all, and easier to rebuild since rebuilding was more or less a seasonal sport. Still, some people do try to fireproof. You see homes with clay tiles on their eaves. Water barrels set at each corner. Clever, but not always enough. Fire spreads not by logic, but by wind. All it takes is a single gust, a single ember, and the whole district is ash before you can lace your boots. You pause to inspect one home's bucket cache. It's full, clean, lined up perfectly. Good. The next one's dry. You knock on the door and wait. A middle-aged man opens it, hair wild, eyes sleepy. Clearly not a morning person. "Bucket's dry," you say, pointing. He groans. "Again?" You nod. "Again." He mutters and vanishes inside. A few seconds later, you hear the slosh of water. You continue on, pretending not to notice the groan of his knees. At least he's not arguing this time. Last week, someone insisted their buckets were just decorative. That got your lieutenant a new twitch in his left eye. By midday, you're sweating through your undershirt. The patrol winds down and you head back toward the firehouse for a break. Someone's sweeping the entrance. A recruit, maybe as punishment or maybe just unlucky. You nod to him and he straightens up. Proud that you noticed. You remember being that eager once briefly. Anyway, inside, the common room is cool and dark. You grab a ladle of well water and splash your face. It's bracing enough to make you gasp, but nothing says welcome back like clean water in a city made of kindling. You settle onto a tatami mat and exhale slowly, the morning fading into the soft clack of wind chimes outside. Around you, the rest of your squad trickles in. Someone starts cutting dried squid into strips for later. Someone else is already asleep. Arm over face, mouth slightly open. You resist the urge to drop a pickled plum in there. Barely. You close your eyes and let yourself drift not into sleep, but into the warm in-between space where time slows down. Outside, the city breathes. Inside, so do you. For now, a bell tolls not the frantic clang of an alarm, but the steady, ritualistic ring of the midday call. It's lunch, officially, though calling it a meal might be pushing it. You peel yourself off the mat, legs tingling, and follow the others back outside. The courtyard smells faintly of smoke, water, and cedar wood. Someone's already lighting the coals again, feeding the embers with careful puffs and an old fan that's held together more by soot than by structure. Lunch today is modest. Rice balls, a strip of grilled mackerel, pickled burdock root, simple. Sustaining, you chew slowly, savoring the salt and the smoke, the crunch of vinegar-soaked vegetables. Your hands are calloused, but your fingertips still feel the smoothness of the lacquered bowl. Around you, there's quiet chewing. The occasional grunt of agreement when someone mentions the food's improved. Since the new cook took over, he denies it, but his smug smile gives him away. You lean against the post again, watching the world beyond the gate. Edo is alive in a way modern cities forget how to be. It breathes. Timber creaks, Lanterns sway on lines strung between rooftops, and you can hear the far-off cries of a peddler selling steamed buns, as if he's singing them into existence. But you're not off the hook for the afternoon. Today, you're on drill duty. When you're not actively chasing flames, you're preparing for them. And that means practice ladders, ropes, coordination, and the exhausting art of working as one fluid machine when most of you still can't agree on how much water belongs in miso soup. You start with the poles. They're heavy, thick beams of pine, carved and lacquered, meant to be raised high and waved during an actual fire to signal to other brigades where help is needed. You hoist yours skyward, feet planted wide. The wind catches the flag tied at the end. Your brigade's crest unfurls like a challenge to the sun. Then come the ladders. Ah yes, the Edo-style ladders. Tall, narrow, more terrifying than helpful. They're designed not for climbing into buildings, although you do that too, but for performance. Every brigade is expected to put on acrobatic ladder demonstrations during New Year's parades, because nothing says public safety like backflipping 15 feet in the air on a rickety beam, held by for men who've only had pickles for breakfast. You step forward, stretch your arms, and begin your climb. The wood is smooth under your palms, worn by generations of firemen and the occasional squirrel. Up you go, until you're 2 stories above the courtyard. The ladder sways, of course. It always sways. The trick is to move with it, like you're part of the rhythm. Like a leaf caught in wind that's politely trying not to kill you. You hear the call. Now comes the pose. You swing one leg out, brace it behind your arm, and lean back with your arms extended. It's part stunt, part ancient ritual. The pose is supposed to mimic a bird mid-flight or maybe a ghost hanging from a bell tower, depending on who you ask. You hold it for a beat, 2, someone coughs below. Another guy mutters, bet he thinks he's a crane. You descend to polite applause, more from relief than admiration. But you take the compliment anyway. At least you didn't fall like last spring. Still, historians aren't sure whether these drills were primarily practical or theatrical. Some argue they were recruitment tools, blending martial prowess with neighborhood pride. Others think they were meant to intimidate rival brigades or, let's be honest, flirt with onlookers. You do a little of each. Then comes water work. You practice with buckets and hand pumps, no fancy hoses or hydrants here. Your team forms a line, bucket to bucket, testing the speed and coordination it would take to carry water from the canal to a rooftop fire. In less than 2 minutes, it's sweaty, sloppy work. Your shirt sticks to your back, your arms ache, and the sloshed water makes the courtyard slick. You slip once, everyone laughs. You bow dramatically, then someone else slips, and it becomes a contest. You lose, but you claim victory on style points. By the time the drills end, the sun is a dull point above the rooftops. Shadows stretch long, the light turning to honey and rust. The courtyard is full of soaked cloth and laughter. The newest recruit dumped half a bucket on himself by mistake again, and the rest of you are pretending it's tradition. You sit down, panting, letting the sweat cool on your arms. A breeze passes through, and the silence after training feels sacred. You glance up. A line of birds cuts across the sky, heading somewhere cooler. As you catch your breath, one of the elders limps over and sits beside you. He's long past ladder duty, but he watches every drill with sharp eyes. You nod to him. He nods back. He says, "Good pose, but shaky at the knees." You reply, "Maybe you need new glasses." He grins without teeth. "Maybe you need new knees." You both chuckle, and the moment passes like a cloud sliding over the sun. Soon, it'll be evening. But for now, you rest, because every muscle in your body is a prayer, and every movement a rehearsal for a moment you hope never comes but know always will. The sun leans low now, casting Edo in long, syrupy shadows. It's that delicious sliver of time when the city feels gentle softer somehow, like it's loosening its kimono after a long day. You stretch your arms over your head and listen to your shoulders crack in protest. A few others are doing the same. legs sprawled out across the sun-warmed floorboards of the firehouse veranda. The air smells of grilled eggplant from a vendor to streets over. It's amazing how your nose knows when it's dinner time. But before anyone gets to eat, you've got patrol again this time. The twilight round. Fires love twilight. They thrive on distraction, and nothing's more distracting than the bustle of people going home, lighting lanterns, cooking meals, and forgetting just how flammable everything is. You gear up again and head out with your partner, a stocky guy named Toranosuke who has the build of a sumo wrestler and the voice of a startled sparrow. His footsteps thud on the packed dirt as you walk the narrow lanes. Lamps flicker to life overhead. Warm yellow glows behind paper shades, like tiny suns watching you from every window. You nod to the same noodle seller from earlier. This time, he offers you a free dumpling, which you refuse on principle, then accept on even firmer principle when he insists. It's still hot, and the miso inside burns your mouth just enough to remind you you're alive. You pass a few children still playing with bamboo stilts, their giggles bouncing off the wooden facades. Their mothers call them in with the exact tone that makes you suddenly remember chores you've left undone. Someone's dog barks in the distance and then barks again with less confidence. Probably saw a cat that looked back. As you patrol, you look up a ways up, watching for smoke, for sparks. You check the narrow alleys for wayward lanterns hung to close to eaves. You glance into the open courtyards, where someone might be careless with cooking coals. You tap water buckets with your wooden pole, making sure they're full. A dry one gives a chalk mark on the door. It's a shame mark, not permanent, but stings enough. Toranosuke mutters, "Think it's going to be a quiet night?" You wince. Why would you say that out loud? He looks confused. What? Why? You just invited trouble. And sure enough, within minutes, you hear it. The drum. To rapid beats, then dumped in a pause. Then again, louder, urgent. You and Toranosuke exchange a look. No words needed. You break into a run. The fire isn't close, but it isn't far either. You follow the rising noise, people shouting, doors slamming, feet pounding. Somewhere up ahead, smoke is threading its way into the sky. Not a lot yet. That's good. Maybe it's just a scare. The building's small, a storehouse. You arrive to find the family already outside, buckets in hand. A neighbor's ladder leans against the side. Good Samaritans, bless him. But the smoke is real, curling out of the windows like dark fingers. Your job isn't always to save a building. Often, it's to stop the fire from leaping to the next one. Because once it jumps a roof, you're in trouble. The wind is mild tonight, thank the gods, but the air is still dry from yesterday's sun. Toranosuke barks orders. You douse the neighboring walls. Someone hands you a bucket without being a skedsmart. You toss it at the roof's edge, water splashing wildly, and it drips down in hissing arcs. Within minutes, the flames are under control. It was the cooking fire Simeon left coals to close to a stack of paper umbrellas, which is, let's be honest, the 18th century version of juggling matches in a hayloft. You help them mop up. Your sleeves are soaked. Your feet are muddy. But your heart's still hammering in your chest like a carpenter laid on rent. The homeowner bows deeply. We owe you everything. You wave it off. Try not to pay us in umbrella fires next time. It's a joke. But his wife still looks like she might cry. You give the all clear and retreat with your partner. Both of you moving slower now. Not from injury, just adrenaline ebbing. The tide pulling out. Your shirt clings to your back. You want food. You want dry socks. You want exactly 7 uninterrupted hours of sleep and a massage from a trained tiger. But back at the firehouse, the evening meal is ready. And just like that, all is forgiven. Steamed barley rice, strips of grilled tofu, and a stick so thick with root vegetables you could eat it with chopsticks off. You don't. You sit cross-legged again, the floor warm under your knees. Someone passes the soy sauce. Another shares pickled cucumbers, crunchy and bright. Laughter trickles through the room like lazy smoke. Someone reenacts Toranosuke's bucket flinging from earlier. He groans and throws a cloth at them, then eats 3 rice balls out of spite. You slurp your tea, Your back aches in a satisfying way, like you've done something worthwhile. Like your body remembers the good work as much as the pain. One of the younger guys tries a joke about the fireman and a geisha walking into a bathhouse. It derails quickly, mostly because the setup is too long and the punchline involves a cart for no reason. But everyone laughs anyway, because laughing's easier than crying, and besides, he's trying. Historians still debate whether Edo fire brigades were more civic service or street gang. The truth is probably both. Your protectors, yes, but also performers, rivals, local heroes, and on bad days, barely organized chaos in matching jackets. Dinner wins down, belly is full, legs sprawled, conversation softens. Someone is humming. Someone else is already snoring in the corner. You lie back, staring at the timber beams overhead. The firehouse smells like tatami and smoke and the memory of miso. Your eyes slip closed. You made it through another day, just barely. The night settles across Edo like a silk shroud light, quiet, deceptively still. The lanterns outside flicker in their protective paper shells, casting blurred shadows across the firehouse floor. You wake briefly, not from sound, but from a shift in the air of kind of intuition that drifts into your bones. After too many years of sleeping with one eye on the roof, it's your turn for the midnight shift. Lucky you. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the others. They're breathing low and rhythmic. Someone's foot is sticking out from under a blanket. Someone else is using a bundle of ropes as a pillow. You pull on your jacket, it's still damp, and pad barefoot to the water basin to splash your face. The cold makes you blink like a startled owl. Outside, the city sleeps. Well, mostly. Edo never fully shuts down. A few lanterns still bob down the alleyways, late night workers, couriers, and, occasionally, less reputable types. Somewhere nearby, you hear the creak of a cart and the faint click of Geta sandals. You step into your patrol circuit, alone this time. Just you and the whisper of your own footsteps. You pass the bathhouse, steam still curls lazily from the vents, sweet with cedar and citrus peel. A cat sits on the threshold, cleaning one paw with exquisite focus, as if she, too, has been charged with keeping the peace. The city smells different at night, darker somehow. You catch hints of river mud, old ashes, cooked soy, and the faint but constant scent of wood. Always wood. It's the soul of the city, and its danger. Your pole rests across your shoulder, the metal tip cool in the night air. Every few blocks, you stop to check buckets. Full. Good. You make a chalk mark on one door frame and correct another. Someone must have dumped their water and forgotten to refill. You shake your head and hope it wasn't a house with paper walls and a fondness for incense. You walk past a row of carafe rep-roof warehouses. Their thick plaster walls stand like quiet sentinels, white in the moonlight. They're the city's insurance policy. If a blaze ever gets too wild, valuables go in fair ledgers, kimonos, family heirlooms, and yes, sometimes the family members too, if they're small and especially valuable. You turn a corner and stop. A light, not a lantern brighter, flickering. Your heartbeat skips. You squint, but then exhale. Just someone with a brazier in the window. You walk over, gently wrap the post with your pole. A sleepy man slides the screen open, blinking. "Bit late for grilling, isn't it?" You murmur. He nods sheepishly and cups his hands to the flame to snuff it. "Wife's sick. Making ginger porridge." You offer a brief bow. "Use the back room next time. Fewer curtains." "Understood. Thank you." And just like that, you're walking again. You reach the edge of your patrol, where the city frays into the river. The Sumida glitters under the moon, its surface broken only by the occasional ripple of a fish or a floating lantern. Someone forgot to tether. You sit on a wooden crate and let your muscles melt for a while. The breeze is cool. Your fingers trace the grain of the crate's surface, and your eyes follow a bat skimming low over the water, chasing invisible prey. It's quiet. Too quiet. No. Just right. Historians still debate how many firemen actually stayed awake during these graveyard shifts. Some say they nap standing up, holding poles like sleepy cranes. Others believed there were unsanctioned tea breaks involving sake and gossip, depending on the neighborhood and the weather. But you're old school. You patrol properly. Mostly. Except now. Because this crate is very comfortable. A sudden noise jolts you just a fish, leaping near the bank. You chuckle softly at your own nerves. Then you hear a flute. High, slow, distant. It's not eerie, though it could be. Just one of the night musicians, an old man who wanders the city after dark, playing tunes to soothe the restless. No one knows his name. Some say he used to be a fireman who saw too much. Others whisper he's a spirit keeping the city from burning in its sleep. You let the music carry you for a while. Eventually, your time is up. You head back through dim lanes and over bridges that feel older than the moon. Your footsteps echo softly on planks smoothed by thousands of others. Back at the firehouse, your relief nods sleepily, rubbing his eyes and muttering something about a dream involving a cabbage and a talking pigeon. You don't ask. You return to your sleeping mat, ease down without a sound, and nestle into the blanket. The floor is hard, but familiar. Your breath slows. Outside, the flute fades. And finally, your eyes close. You dream of fire, but not the scary kind. In your dream, it dances in lanterns at a summer festival, turning yukata silk golden and warm. You walk between stalls lit with laughter and noodles. Someone hands you grilled corn. Somewhere above, fireworks bloom and fade, each one a petal of light that dies gently. But dreams are funny in Edo. Yours changes. Now the fire is on a roof. Not terrifying, but serious. A slow, creeping blaze that glows like an ember in the city's ribs. You wake just slight lightening on your side, tucking your arm beneath your head. The fire was a dream, probably, but your hand tightens slightly around the edge of your mat. Because in Edo, you never sleep too deeply. Morning again, not the dramatic kind with rays bursting through clouds and birds singing harmonino. This morning arrives like a damp cloth to the face, soft, gray, and vaguely judgmental. The firehouse stirs slowly, with a chorus of creaks, yawns, and someone muttering about a phantom mosquito that may or may not have been a dream. You stretch your arms overhead and your spine pops in at least for places. A few of the others are already up, rolling away their mats and refolding their uniforms with the practiced flicks of men who've done this 1,000 times. There's a bowl of rice gruel warming over coals, faintly sweetened with barley syrup. You eat it without complaint, even if it tastes like lukewarm paper, because it's warm and there's pickled plum on the side. Today's schedule is written on the wooden board near the door. Patrols, maintenance, community drills. Oh joy, you know the routine. Every so often, the neighborhood bands together for a mock fire scenario, half training, half theatrical performance. The idea is to teach locals what to do in a real emergency, and to remind them that you exist for more than just yelling and climbing roofs like angry squirrels. You gear up with the others. Today, you'll be demonstrating how to build a fire break with ropes and wet cloths. It's not glamorous, but it keeps things from getting crispy. As you head out, people are already gathering. Kids chase each other around the well bucket, shrieking with glee. Shopkeepers lean out from doorways, arms folded, ready to nod thoughtfully and offer unsolicited advice. You spot the tofu seller from the streets over hallways brings you extra during these things, possibly out of gratitude, possibly to bribe you into keeping his cousin's sake shop off the chalk list. You take your station near a model house built just for practice, mostly wooden thatch, with one wall painted black to simulate smoke damage. It's charming in a grim way, like a dollhouse for very prepared pessimists. The exercise begins. You and your crew spring into action, demonstrating how to secure the roof, how to tie soaked cloth bundles onto eaves, how to pass buckets in a human chain without drenching your neighbor. Tornosu climbs the ladder to shout commands, and you suspect he enjoys the authority a little too much. A child asks loudly, "Are you real firemen or just pretending?" You pause just long enough to wink at him. Depends are you a real child or just short. The crowd laughs. The child grins. His mother tries to look stern, but she's smiling too. The demonstration continues. You show them how to use the fire hooks not just for tearing down burning walls, but for creating strategic collapses to start flames of fuel. Its destruction is salvation. Oddly poetic, really. Historians still argue whether these drills were primarily for training or for public relations. The line is blurry. Edo fire brigades had to maintain both readiness and popularity after all. Your funding, support, and sometimes your dinner depended on how much the community liked you. The drill ends with a flourish, a choreographed rope deployment, and a synchronized water splash. That soaks the pretend roof. Everyone claps. You bow low, sweat trickling down your back. It wasn't a real fire, but your muscles don't care. They ache with that slow burn that says, you've done your part. Then comes the part you forgot neighborhood questions. How do you know where the fire is? Do you sleep standing up? Do you ever start fires just so you can look heroic? That last one earns a sharp look from your captain. No. You answer smoothly. We don't need to. Edo provides. You chuckle, but it's true. Fires are so frequent that you barely have time to fold your jacket before another bell rings. It's a rhythm as predictable as the tides. Afterward, you and your crew are invited to a local tea house as thanks. Its modest low ceilings, woven blinds, and the smell of roasted green tea floating in the air like a benediction. You sit cross-legged at a lacquered table while the owner brings out small sweets bean paste, wrapped in rice paper and porcelain cups warm to the touch. You drink slowly, letting the bitterness of the tea settle into your tongue. Outside, the neighborhood resumes its usual pulse. Vendors shout, carpenters hammer. Someone sings softly as they hang laundry from a second-floor window. Life, layered and busy, stitched together with 1,000 fragile threads. The shopkeeper leans in. Tell me truthfully, what's the most dangerous thing in a fire? You answer without hesitation. Wind. Not the flames, not the buildings. The wind. It's what makes a tiny spark become a monster. What turns one burning paper wall into 10? What carries embers over fire breaks and into your next week's nightmares? He nods slowly, as if storing the knowledge for a stormy day. You leave the tea house feeling oddly philosophical. The day is cooling now. Afternoon sunlight catches in puddles, and children float paper boats through them as if they were great river traders. On the walk back, Tornosik grumbles about drills. We should get hazard pay for those questions alone. You smirk. Hazard pay doesn't exist. You know what we get. He raises a brow, rice balls and admiration. He snorts, barely the rice balls. Back at the firehouse, the chores begin again. Coils of rope are dried and re-rolled. Ladders are checked for cracks. Water buckets are emptied and refilled. The pole tips are oiled to keep them rust-free. Maintenance isn't glamorous. But in your line of work, the boring parts are what save lives. One of the younger firemen is practicing his nods in the corner, tongue stuck out in concentration. You remember being that eager, sort of. Maybe it okay, not really. You finish your tasks just as the sky begins to shift again, the blue deepening at the edges, shadows stretching like lazy cats across the wooden floor. And just like that, another day in Edo folds itself up, tidy as a futon. You sit on the veranda again, legs dangling, watching the first lanterns light. The scent of pine smoke curls up from a distant chimney. A breeze lifts the edge of your sleeve. Somewhere nearby, a woman laughs, clear and unbothered. It's not your business, but it's comforting. Somehow, you lean your head back against the post. Let your eyes flutter closed. No drum tonight. Not yet. Evening has officially unpacked its bags. The sky's lost its sharp blue brightness. Traded it for a hazy indigo brush with pale peach at the edges. Paper lanterns flicker to life one by one, bobbing gently on doorways and alley corners like sleepy fireflies tethered to human hands. You know these hours well when everything quiets, but hasn't quite gone still. The in-between. You're back on your feet, this time escorting your crew through another patrol. Tornosik's got the lead, as usual. Walking with his shoulders back and at dramatic pace, he probably practices when no one's watching. You lag just a bit behind, mostly to keep an eye out, but also because your knees don't bounce like they used to. Tonight's air is cool, crisp enough that you tug your jacket tight across your chest. It smells faintly of fish market smoke and old rain trapped in wood. You pass street vendors packing up their wares, dango skewers tied in neat bundles. Folding tables creaking as they're hoisted onto carts. One old lady sells roasted chestnuts out of a basket, her fingers stained brown from the shelling. She offers you one, and you take it, mostly because she reminds you of your aunt. It's still warm and sweet. Watch your chimneys. Torinosu calls out like a town crier as you round a corner. Damp with smokes and smoke means trouble. The residents nod, familiar with the drill. It's half warning, half performance. That's part of the job, keep them alert and remind them that your eyes never sleep, or at least, they nap very lightly. Your path takes you along one of the city's main waterways, the Kanda River. Wooden bridges cross it at intervals, low and sturdy, designed more for function than beauty. They groan under the weight of traffic during the day, but now they rest in silence. You pause in the middle of one, watching your reflection ripple beneath your feet. There's something about water that always calms you. Maybe because it's the one element that makes your job easier instead of harder. Below, a fisherman rows slowly upstream, his bamboo pole resting across his knees. He doesn't see you. He doesn't need to. You're just part of the scenery to him now. On the far bank, a geisha house glows softly behind its screens. Silhouettes of dancing figures casting shadows like brushwork on silk. Laughter bubbles faintly over the water, muted, elegant, far removed from the smoky chaos of a firehouse. You move on. A few blocks later, you stop to inspect one of the neighborhood wells. The water level looks good. The pulley's strong, the bucket's intact. You give it a small test hoist, just to be sure. You never assume these things will work until they prove it. Remember last spring? Torinosu mutters, leaning against the post. The well that snapped mid-fire. You nod grimly. That one incident turned what should have been a quick roof burn into a full-blown street blaze. The water came, eventually but not before, to houses where ash and your boots had melted halfway through. Historians still argue about whether Edo's well systems were sufficient for the scale of the fires. Some claim the networks were marvels of civic planning. Others, less impressed, point to the number of times wells ran dry or collapsed mid-use. The truth, as always, probably depends on the neighborhood and the week. As your crew turns down a side street, you hear a distant chime and another, closer, temple bells, sounding out the hour. You count them as you walk, 8, maybe 9. The sky's gone full violet now, stitched with stars you'd swear weren't there a minute ago. You pass the soba shop that stays open late. The steam wafts out into the street and punches you straight in the nose with the smell of seaweed, soy, and green onion. A small crowd huddles outside, slurping loudly and chatting between mouthfuls. Someone offers you a noodle, you shake your head, but make a mental note to come back when your shift ends. At the next corner, you find a group of children squatting around a small pile of firecrackers. Clearly homemade and definitely illegal. You clear your throat loud enough to shake their little souls loose. They scatter like rice on a windy day, squealing and laughing. One of them drops a bamboo tube, and you pick it up with a sigh. No good can come from kids who learn how to make gunpowder, you mutter. You say that every week, Torinosu chuckles. That's because it's always true. You carry the rogue firework in your sleeve, just in case. It's safer that way. Besides, confiscated toys make great barter material with certain stall owners. You're not above trading it for pickled daikon. As you loop back toward the firehouse, you notice a woman with an open lantern set dangerously close to a pile of dry kindling. You pause, offer a gentle suggestion, and she nods gratefully. She hadn't even noticed. That's the thing about fire rate waits. It bides its time. Then it strikes. Fast and hungry. You arrive back just as the captain finishes logging the nightly sweep. He nods at your return, and you all sit for a few minutes on the steps, catching your breath. Torinosu peels an orange with unnecessary intensity. You lean back, letting the night air cool your face. Then it happens. A shout in the distance, short, clipped, unmistakable. Kajidie. You're on your feet before the word finishes echoing. Fire. Somewhere not far, judging by the direction of the call. Maybe the blocks east. Already, you can see a faint orange pulse lighting the sky like a heartbeat behind wood. You grab your pole, check your rope, no time for hesitation. Just the rhythm of response. The team moves in practice harmony, sprinting down the narrow lane, turning corners like they've memorized every nail and creak of Edo's streets. The smoke finds you first acrid, dark, heavy with burning lacquer and Wright's glue. Then the sound, crackling, yes, but also the panic flutter of people yelling, running, tossing water in bowls too small to matter. The flames dance along a rooftop, licking at the air as if daring the sky to stop them. This is what you've trained for, what you've rehearsed, dreamed, feared. The fire is here, and so are you. There's no room for thought, now only motion. You surge forward with your crew, weaving between bystanders, your wooden pole thudding against your shoulder with each step. The fire's already taken hold of the upper floor of a narrow merchant house. You can see silhouettes moving frantically inside. Too many. Someone's still up there. Smoke curls down the eaves, thick and tar black, and the thatched edge of the roof is glowing like a wick. The heat pulses in waves. Close enough now to tighten your throat and sting your eyes. You shout, pointing, and Tornosig nods before bolting around back to find another access point. You don't wait. In one leap, you plant your pole against the edge of the eave and begin to climb. The crowd gasps below, but you've done this 100 times. Muscle memory and good rope knots guide your ascent. You reach the second floor, grab the lip of the window, and swing inside. It's chaos. A woman crouches near the stairs, coughing into her sleeve. A child is huddled under a table, face streaked with soot and tears. You move quickly, grabbing the child first, then motioning for the woman to follow. She stumbles behind you as you lead them back toward the window, back to the waiting ladder, where another firefighter is already positioned to assist. The wood under your feet groans, flames crackle overhead. Time dilates, every breath is a battle, every second a gamble. You shove the child out towards safety, help the woman lower herself after. Then, just as you prepare to follow, a beam crashes down inches from where you stood. Close, too close. But you're not the type to be trapped by timing. Not tonight. You scramble through the smoke, drop to the ground floor, and burst through the entrance, coughing, blinking, half blind but upright. Outside, your crewmates cheer. The crowd applauds. You don't hear much, just the ringing in your ears and the racing thump in your chest. Someone hands you a wet cloth. You press it to your face, grateful. Then you're back at it. The fire is spreading to the building next door, a candle shop. Of all ironic places. Tornosig shouts orders, and your crew forms a quick line. Buckets flying from hand to hand in a rhythmic slap, splash, slap. You climb again, this time with a hook in hand, aiming to collapse part of the shop's outer wall before the fire reaches the stores of wax inside. Historians still argue whether Edo's firefighters were more like demolition crews than true extinguishers. And really, they're not wrong. You destroy to preserve, pull down to protect. Sometimes, the best way to stop a fire is to remove everything it wants to eat. You swing the hook. The wall groans, gives, and falls inward in a burst of sparks and soot. The fire recoils, momentarily starved of its path. You descend again, boots clattering against hot shingles, and regroup with your squad. Everyone's coated in sweat and ash, coughing between commands. No one's endured yet that could change in an instant. And then comes the wind. You feel it before you hear a rush of air sweeping down the alley like a living thing. Fanning the flames upward and outward, lanterns rattle, sparks fly. One catches on the edge of a neighbor's cloth awning. You sprint to it, beating the small flare with your damp sleeve, stopping what remains. Another few seconds, and you'd have had a second blaze on your hands. These wooden buildings are treacherous. They breathe fire just as easily as smoke. A shout from the far side, more embers have drifted across the narrow lane. Another roof is catching. You glance to your captain, get the nod, and take off running with half the crew in tow. The night is no longer a backdrop, it's a battlefield. You reach the second fire just in time. It's still small enough to fight directly. You and others soak it down with buckets, smothering it with wet canvas, beating at the edges with palm fans soaked in vinegar. It smells terrible. It works wonderfully. Someone hands you a split gourd of water. You drink in gasps, the cool liquid sliding down your smoke-scraped throat. It tastes faintly of ash. Not the worst thing you swallowed today. The main fire is dying now. Not out, not yet, but contained. The roof is mostly collapsed, and your crew has formed a barrier of damp and debris around the charred skeleton of what remains. Locals stand at a distance, silent now, odd, exhausted, grateful. One woman bows low as you pass. Another hands you a rag to wipe your face. A third offers a rice ball wrapped in a leaf, trembling slightly in her hands. You take it, because you know it's not about the food. It's about needing to do something in a moment when everything else is out of your control. There's cleanup still to do. Burnt timbers must be moved. Hot spots soaked. Injuries tended. You help where you can, though your legs shake slightly under you now. Adrenaline only lasts so long. You overhear one of the town elders murmuring that it could have been worse, much worse. And she's right. You all know it. This fire was bad, but it didn't jump the block. It didn't burn the whole district. You did your job. Tonight, that's enough. The fire captain calls for final inspections. You pair up and sweep the area, looking for lingering embers or mist hot beams. The stars are still there, above it all, unbothered and cold. You wonder what they think of you, sculling about like ants with ropes and sticks, trying to outwit the oldest force on Earth. Eventually, it's quiet. Not calm, never that, but quieter. The danger has passed. You and your team head back toward the firehouse, dragging your feet. You're still covered in soot. Your hair smells like chimney guts. And you're definitely going to have bruises in places you didn't know could bruise. But you're alive. Everyone's alive, even the tofu vendor. As you settle back onto the firehouse port, someone brings out barley tea. It's lukewarm and bitter. But right now, it tastes like a luxury. You sip, breathing in the fading scent of smoke and scorched wood. Tsutsugaki slumps next to you, eyes half closed. I miss boring days, he mutters. You nod. Remind me to invent metal buildings. He chuckles softly, resting his head against the post. The fire bell sits quiet now, back on its hook, indifferent, waiting. It always waits. For tonight, at least. You've earned your sleep. You wake slowly, sometime near dawn. The night's adrenaline has burned itself out, and your limbs feel like maca soft, sluggish, a little sore. You shift on your bedding, which smells faintly of charcoal and vinegar-soaked rope. Outside, the world is stirring, not quite loud yet, but nudging toward daybreak with clinks of wooden shutters and murmurs from passing carts. You sit up with a groan that feels older than you are. The firehouse is quiet. Tsutsugaki snores gently from across the room, a half-eaten rice ball resting on his chest. Someone else is mumbling in their sleep about flying ash demons, probably Tatsu, who has a vivid imagination and no filter between dreams and reality. You stretch your arms overhead, and everything cracks in protest. But you're upright, which counts as a victory. You shuffle to the wash basin outside and splash cold water over your face. It stings, but it's real. It's grounding. You scrub until you can no longer smell last night's inferno in your eyebrows. Barely. A young girl passes with a basket of sweet potatoes, and she bows low when she sees your uniform. Thank you for saving my uncle's store, she says softly. You smile. Thank your uncle for not building it out of fireworks and oil. She giggles, then hurries off. You watch her go, then glance up at the sky. It's streaked with soft salmon pink, threaded with gray, like a brush painting left out in the rain. There's work to be done. Despite the exhaustion still tangled in your shoulders, you and the others begin your morning sweep. After a fire, the next day is all about damage control and information gathering. You walk the block near the scene, checking the smoldering ruins. The merchant house is now little more than blackened bones, but the surrounding structures held. A miracle, or maybe just your training doing what it was designed to do still. A few roof tiles need replacing, and someone's rice store took a bit of water damage in the frenzy. One of your crew makes notes on a wooden tablet, logging the affected addresses. It's more paperwork than you like, but Edo loves its records. Everything must be accounted for. Even so, you pause by the ruins, letting your hand brush the charred frame of a window. Just last night, this space had housed dinner bowls, sandals, laughter. Now, it's hollow. Historians still debate how emotionally attached Edo's citizens were to their homes, given how frequently they burned. Some argue the people developed a kind of fatalistic detachment, accepting that fire was just part of life. Others believe the frequent rebuilding bred deeper community ties, a shared resilience. You figure it's a bit of both. Across the street, neighbors gather to discuss the fire's origin. Theories fly faster than Bert's an unattended lantern, a cooking pot left on too long. Even whispers of a fox spirit with a grudge. You keep your thoughts to yourself for now. The official report will take a few days, and besides, no one really wants the truth today. They just want to share the story. Your captain appears, holding a bundle of incense sticks. Temple offering, he says. Standard practice. You follow him to a small neighborhood shrine tucked behind a tea house. It's nothing grand, just a stone fox statue and a wooden box for coins, but the moment feels heavy with meaning. Each of you lights an incense stick, places it in the sand, and bows. The smoke rises like memory, curling toward the heavens. As you return to the firehouse, you pass a courier reading aloud from a gossip sheet, apparently. A local actor was caught wooing both a samurai's wife and her maid. You shake your head. Edo never runs out of drama, even when the smoke hasn't cleared. Back at base, breakfast is simple. Miso soup, pickled radish, and leftover rice. You eat with a kind of absent hungerless about the taste, more about the ritual. One bite, one breath, one small return to normalcy. A scroll arrives mid-meal, delivered by a runner with ink on his cheeks. It's from City Magistrate Tescameni for your crew's swift response, along with a reminder that next time, please try not to destroy 3 neighboring fences. You roll your eyes. Bureaucrats always want a fire put out without a splash. Should we send them a thank you fire? Pornosuk mumbles through his soup. Tempting, you reply. Once breakfast is cleared, it's time for equipment check. Your pole is splinter-a-dig and your robe has a tear along the sleeve. Robe's still good, though. And that's the one thing you never want failing in the middle of a rescue. You set your tools aside and sit for a moment, watching as another crew returns from patrol, dragging their feet just like yours did earlier. They nod in solidarity. You nod back. It's a quiet language and built from shared burns and sleepless nights. Just as you're about to doze off in the corner, a young apprentice rushes in, holding a charred fragment of a firework casing. You drop this, he says, eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. You blink. It's the homemade rocket from the kids last night. He must have seen you carry it off. You chuckle, pat his head, and tell him to keep it. A reminder, you say, to invent safer hobbies. He grins like you just handed him a piece of gold. You lie back on the wooden floor, letting the beams above lull you into half sleep. The building creaks gently in the breeze. Somewhere outside, a rooster crows. Somewhere further, a distant bell chimes for morning prayer. You close your eyes. No alarms, no smoke, just silence. For now, it's just past midday now, and the sun has turned the streets of Edo into a shimmering grid of dusty light and gently bustling heat. You've managed a few hours of sleep curled up beside the firehouse's storage room, pressed against a cool stone wall, dreaming of rice paddies and clouds shaped like cats wearing helmets. The city doesn't pause for fire. By the time you shake off the last strands of drowsiness and stagger outside again, the neighborhood is already humming with recovery. Carpentry crews arrive to help reinforce damaged beams. Vendors cautiously return to their stalls. laying out pickled plums and yams like nothing ever happened. You notice that someone's painted a fresh Shimenawa rope across the lintel of the Burnhausen, offering a protection against whatever bad luck dared to come knocking last night. There's a rhythm to all of it: destruction, then restoration, fire, then rice and laughter. Your job now: inspection. Edo's fire brigades weren't just emergency responders, they were inspectors, advisors, and uninvited architectural critics. You and others from your crew are assigned to do a sweep of surrounding households, offering advice on fire safety. It's a delicate task. No one loves being told their stove is positioned like a fire demon's front porch, but they usually accept it when it comes from someone still soot-streaked from battle. You approach the first house, a modest silk dying shout. Excuse the intrusion, you call gently, as per custom, before stepping through the open door. The owner, a weary man with blue-stained fingertips, greets you with a nod. Welcome, honored guests. The fire came to close, didn't it? Close enough to taste my eyebrows, you say, and he snorts. You walk the interior with a critical eye, checking where the cooking pit is located, how close the shelves sit to the hanging fabric, whether the oil jars are sealed or just daring the universe to spark. You could use a water bucket here, you suggest, and maybe rotate the drying rack away from the stove. He nods solemnly, scribbling a note, and then you spot it, a tiny ceramic figurine of a fire god tucked above the doorframe. It's cracked, just slightly. He follows your gaze. Ah, yes, been up there for 20 years. You might want to thank him with something. You say, he did his job. You continue down the row of shops. One home has a roof piled to high with kindling for winter. Another has paper screens dangerously close to the brazier. You make suggestions with the calm tone of a man who has literally leapt into flames to make his point that tends to earn compliance. Along the way, people offer snacks, fans, even freshly laundered robes. You thank them with practiced gratitude, tucking away what you can, politely declining what you can't carry. Tornosuk winds up with an armful of eggplants at one house, and by the fifth stop, you're both laughing so hard you nearly forget why you're there. Historians still argue whether Edo's tight-knit neighborhoods were more cooperative or competitive during post-fire rebuilds. Some claim communities united over tea and shared beams. Others say jealousy brewed over who rebuilt faster or grander. You suspect both are true, depending on how many tatami mats someone had before the blaze. At one home, you find an elderly couple carefully folding burnt prayer flags. They offer you sweet ginger water and ask if you bless their new stove setup. You're not a priest, but you do a little bow and wave combo that makes them smile. May your fire always cook, never consume, you say. Not bad for something you made up on the spot. Your crew regroups in the late afternoon, comparing notes, laughing over which house had the strangest fire prevention charm so far. The winner is a mummified lizard tied with red thread above a pantry shelf. Back at the firehouse, you sit in the shade, feet bare, drinking lukewarm barley tea and fanning yourself with an old rice bag lid. The heat clings like syrup now. Sweat beads on your arms and temples. Somewhere nearby, a street musician is playing a shamus and lazuli, string by string, like even his music is melting. Tomorrow's our day off, someone mumbles. Unless the city decides to do something exciting, someone else replies. You don't respond. You're watching a dragonfly land on the rim of your tea bowl. Just when you think peace has fully returned, a runner arrives, holding a scroll tied in orange string. He bows, panting from his sprint. Inspection request. North Canal District. You groan. Did the canal catch fire now? No, he says, but they're worried about the new warehouse. You exchange looks with Tornosu. You have been planning to nap through the golden hour. Now you're trudging across the city toward warehouses filled with lacquer and whale oil. Wonderful. The canal district is quieter, flatter. Warehouses here are sturdier, often built with clay tiles and thicker beams. Still, they're packed with flammable goods textiles, paper, precious woods, and the rumor is that one new builder used shortcuts to cut costs. You arrive to find an overseer wringing his hands. We're sure it's fine, he says. Just would appreciate expert eyes. You examine the structure carefully. It's suspiciously dry. The beams have no fire breaks. The stairwell is a chimney waiting for a reason. One of your crew scribbles quietly on his tablet, and you just shake your head. This needs fixes, you tell the overseer, before it fixes itself by turning into an oven. To his credit, he doesn't argue. He sighs deeply, like a man watching his wallet ignite in slow motion. As you leave, you catch sight of a group of children playing with spinning tops near the water's edge. One of them wears a miniature fireman's robe stitched by someone's grandmother. He is barking orders at a make-believe crew of bewildered turtles and a kite. You there, he shouts at a frog on a rock. Collapse that wall. You grin. The next generation's already training. Walking back to the firehouse, you pass a noodle vendor setting up for the evening rush. He waves you over and offers 2 bowls on the house. You eat standing up, chopsticks working lazily, savoring the simple salt and steam. A breeze drifts through the narrow street, finally, carrying the scent of river moss and grilled leeks. For a moment, you forget the smoke, the inspections, the cracked tiles and angry scrolls. Just warmth, just noodles, just now. The sun slips behind the rows of wooden eaves, and the air begins to cool just barely. Edo exhales. You finish your noodles, wipe your face with your sleeve, and thank the vendor with a quiet bow. Your legs ache from the day's walk, your shoulders from the rope work, and your brain, well, it's been operating on fumes and barley tea for longer than it should admit. But still, you're standing. That's worth something. As you make your way back toward the firehouse, the streets shift into their nighttime shape. Lamps flicker to life in shop fronts. Children's laughter thins out as they're called inside. A wind stirs bits of ash left over from the fire, scattering it like gray confetti over the cobblestones. The city isn't silent. Not exactly it hums, but the frenetic pulse of the day has given way to a more deliberate rhythm. You pass a theater, just letting out. A flurry of voices spills into the street, full of excited chatter about the hero's final monologue or the comic sidekick who stole the show. One actor, still in partial makeup, leans against a doorway, smoking a pipe with the exaggerated melancholy of a man who knows he looks fantastic in dim light. He sees your uniform and raises a hand in solemn salute. The real performers, he says. And it's only half a joke. You chuckle. We don't get bows, just burns. He shrugs, a more committed role. Back at the firehouse, the mood has softened. Everyone's in the odd lull between meals and sleep, lounging on mats, playing card games, brushing soot out of ropes, or in one corner, trying to settle a heated argument about whether tanuki can cause spontaneous combustion. They can't, probably. Someone passes you a damp towel for your face. Another hands you a cup of warm sake. It's cheap and vaguely fruity, and you savor it like it came from the shogun's personal stash. Tonight's your turn to write the incident log. You settle at the low writing table, unroll a sheet of paper, and dip your brush in ink that smells faintly of pine tar. Your handwriting isn't great, your strokes tend to droop. When you're tired but legibility isn't the top priority, accuracy is. You begin with the date, the hour of the alarm, the direction of the wind, the number of houses affected, the tools used, the name of the merchant who insisted his shop was fireproof right before it exploded. Like a festival card, historians still debate how strictly these records were kept. Some say the logs were essential bureaucratic instruments, helping the shogunate track and manage Edo's ever-flammable infrastructure. Others argued they were more like polite fiction emphasizing bravery, skimming over confusion, sometimes leaving out less flattering moments like when someone fell off a roof, trying to rescue a cat that turned out to be a shoe. You try to keep it honest. You include the near miss on the alley roof, the child with the firework, even the part where Toronosik forgot his sash and had to climb a ladder, with one hand holding up his pants. Why do we bother? He asks, sipping his own sake, staring at the ceiling. With the log, you say, with any of it. You look at him. The ink on your brush drips quietly, because otherwise it burns and disappears. You say, "This way. At least it's remembered." He doesn't reply, but he refills your cup. After the report, you help clean the firehouse's tool room. The smell of charred rope and vinegar still clings to everything, but you've long stopped noticing. You uncoil lines, inspect bamboo poles for splinters, test the weight of hooks and saws. Each item tells a story scratches from a panicked rescue. A scorch mark shaped exactly like a grilled mackerel no one knows how. Handles smoothed by hundreds of calloused hands. A small box tucked in the corner catches your eye. Inside, trinkets, things recovered after fires. A cracked hairpin, a toy boat, a tiny wooden Buddha. Now one-armed. You don't know whose they were, but someone cared enough to hand them to you, dirty and dripping, saying, "Can you save this?" You didn't always succeed, but the box says you tried. You place a new addition inside a fragment of the child's firework you passed on earlier. Turns out the apprentice had slipped it back into your pouch. Outside, the city winds down. The streets are quieter now, the last of the night vendors packing up. Lanterns burning lower. You step out onto the porch, lean against the post, and listen to Edo breathe. There's a kind of beauty in the wooden city at night, the way the moonlight dusts the roof lines. The glint of paper lanterns mirrored in water buckets. The shadow soft, respectful, almost apologetic for having to exist at all. You think about the houses you visited today. The silk dyer with the cracked figurine. The old couple with the new stove. The makeshift temple beside the tea shop, each one changed. Slightly. Scarred, maybe, but still here. Some people think fire destroys. You've learned it also reveals. You stay outside a little longer than usual, sipping the last of your sake. It tastes sweeter now. Or maybe your mouth just finally stopped tasting smoke. A bell chimes in the distance at temple hour. You close your eyes and try to count how many you've heard since joining the brigade. You lose track around 7. Behind you, someone starts snoring. Probably the rookie. He's curled under his robe like a dumpling, dreaming of heroic rescues or exploding tanuki. You smile. You stretch once, slowly, feeling the weight of the day loosen its grip. Then you head inside, tuck your tools away, and roll out your sleeping mat. The night holds, silent and still, wrapping around the firehouse like a warm futon. For now, you wait before dawn. The sky is still thick with that velvety darkness that makes everything feel distant and hushed, like the city is holding its breath. A few crows caw half-heartedly from a rooftop somewhere, but even they seem reluctant to start the day. Your joints creak as you sit up. Sleeping on a straw mat will do that, and you quietly fold your blanket, trying not to wake the others. You step outside into the stillness. The air is cool, not yet tinged with the breathless heat that will roll in by mid-morning. Mist hangs low over the rooftops, softening the hard lines of the city, muting the scent of char and dust. It's a rare thing, this calm. A few merchants are already setting up shop, but most of Edo is still curled in dreams. You've got an early appointment, the Temple of Candid Myergen. It's a tradition among your crew after a major fire. At least one member visits the temple for purification and thanks. Not quite a ritual, not quite superstition, but something in between. A nod to the gods, to chance, to whatever force kept your ladder from splintering mid-climb or the flames from licking your heels. You walk the back streets to avoid traffic, sandals whispering against the cobblestones. A fishmonger you know offers a sleepy wave, and you wave back, smiling at the smell of fresh catch and river silt. Life keeps marching, even after the fire. Or maybe especially after it. The temple looms ahead, its red gate dim in the mist. You pass under the torii and up the stone steps, pausing at the top to catch your breath. You drop a coin into the box, bow twice, clap twice, and bow once more as standard protocol. Then, without a word, you whisper your thanks for the safety, for the strength, for the buildings that didn't fall, the people who didn't panic. The fire Thathis time didn't win. Historians still debate how seriously Edo firefighters took these rituals. Some accounts say they were deeply devout, their tunics embroidered with protective symbols and their helmets blessed before every shift. Others argued they were mostly pragmatic, more concerned with rope knots than with divine intercession. Either way, you suspect it's about balance, bravery, and belief, sweat and spirit. You light a stick of incense and let the smoke curl upward, mingling with the morning fog. When you return to the firehouse, the others are stirring. Breakfast is being prepared: miso soup, leftover rice, pickled radish, and the room hums with lazy conversation. Someone's already found a newspaper, and they read aloud about a minor scandal involving a wealthy merchant and a warehouse accidentally rebuilt a little larger than before. You all boo and cheer like it's a kabuki show. After breakfast, it's drill time. Even on light duty days, the brigade trains. You gather in the courtyard, stretch under the watchful eye of the captain, and go through rope throws, balance climbs, and mock rescues. The ropes slap against the training poles with satisfying precision. Your body knows the rhythm now, even when your brain wants a nap. Today is specialty drill, blindfolded ladder ascent. You groan, but take your place. The point is to simulate heavy smoke conditions when visibility is zero, and you have to rely on muscle memory, not sight. You grip the ladder's sides and begin the climb. Each rung creaks, each breath feels measured. There's something oddly meditative about it. You're floating in the dark, anchored only by your grip and the sound of your breathing. When you reach the top, there's polite applause. You both out facing entirely the wrong direction, which gets a laugh. Later, you help patch a tear in one of the water hoods. The stitching is clumsy, but effective. You're no seamstress, but you've learned to repair what you can. These items are too valuable to replace on a whim. Every bucket, every hook, every jacket soaked in vinegar and sweat they are part of the crew's lifeline. Someone asks if you've seen your name on the posted schedule for next week. Wait, you say, there's a schedule now. Apparently. He grins. We're modernizing. You wander over to the wall where a wax board lists names and shifts, scrawled in brush strokes that clearly came from the captain's overconfident wrist. There it is. You've got the Temple District beat next Tuesday, partnered with a new recruit, the one who still mixes up his left sandal. Perfect, you mutter. At least we'll burn symmetrically. Mid-morning passes, and you're sent on a small task. Deliver a message to another brigade across town. It's a chance to stretch your legs and maybe sneak in a snack. You take the long way, enjoying the city as it returns to its usual rhythms. You pass vendors hawking bamboo fans, students reciting poetry at the feet of their weary teachers, and a pair of courtesans practicing their walk with books balanced on their heads. Edo's never the same twice. Even the buildings, with their familiar creaks and folds, seem to shift with the light. On the bridge near Nihonbashi, you pause. The water is calm today, the boats drifting like lazy koi. You spot another fireman across the way, different uniform, different crew. He nods. You nod. That's all it takes, a shared understanding. Back at the firehouse, the afternoon rolls in slowly. You help clean the lanterns, oil a few hinges, polish your belt's wooden clasp. These are the quiet hours, when nothing urgent demands your attention. Time stretches out like a cat in the sun. You find a shady corner and nap for 20 minutes, one hand resting on your coiled rope, as if your body still expects the bell to ring at any moment. And maybe it will, but for now, it doesn't. You wake to the sound of someone playing a shakuhachi, slow, breathy notes that rise and fall like a lullaby for grown men in fire-drenched robes. A few of the others are playing a dice game nearby, the clatter of wood against wood rhythmic and oddly soothing. Dinner arrives with a sunset, steamed barley, salted fish, and a small pot of stewed squash. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. A crew that eats together survives together. Not a proverb, but it should be. Later, the captain gathers you for a final check-in. No news is good news, he says, voice gravelly. But sharpen your tools anyway. You nod, all of you. It's not superstition, it's preparation. The city sleeps lightly, and so do you. You sit outside for a few minutes before bed. watching as the last embers of the sun dissolve behind the rooftops. A moth flutters around the lantern by your side. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and goes silent. The firehouse feels like a ship on a sea of timber and dreams. You breathe in, you breathe out, and tomorrow waits, just beyond the edge of sleep. The next day starts with rain. Not a storm, not a downpour, just a soft, steady drizzle that slicks the streets and dapples the rooftops in tiny silver halos. You sit under the eaves of the firehouse, sipping warm tea, watching the droplets gather at the tips of the bamboo gutters before falling, one by one, into the gravel below. It smells clean, like wet wood and old stone. No smoke, no char, just rain. You think a fireman might celebrate that, and you do, in your own quiet way. You stretch your legs, lean back against the pillar, and let the rhythm of the rain slow your thoughts. No drills today, no smoke alarms, no sudden races up ladders with buckets swinging like kettles on a runaway cart. It's a gift, but also a little boring, because while the work is dangerous, unpredictable, occasionally absurd, you've grown used to it. Not just used to it, but attached. The chaos has its own strange gravity. You know the weight of it, the texture, the way it binds you to your team, to the city, to yourself. Still, rain days are for catching up. You mend a torn sandal strap with borrowed thread. Help inventory the emergency supplies, which now inexplicably include for umbrellas, and a safe bottle with a frog living inside, and clean soot off the decorative lion mask that hangs above the door. No one knows where it came from. Probably a festival, maybe a failed exorcism. You glance at the logbook, still open from the night before. You leaf through past entrecieres of names, of fires great and small. Some are barely more than single lines. Others fill pages, spilling over with details and drawings. You trace one with your finger. A fire in the paper district to full blocks lost, and a note in the margin, recovered for fans and a parrot, all singed but surviving. Historians still argue whether the fire brigades of Edo were primarily protectors or performers. Their uniforms were theatrical, their tactics dramatic, their courage practically mythic. Were they public servants or symbols? Was it about the flamier the spectacle? You think, maybe, it was always both. Outside, a boy dashes by in the rain, using a plank of wood as an umbrella. You hear his laughter echo down the alley, splashy and bright. By mid-morning, the rain slows. The mist rises from the tiles like ghosts giving up and heading home. You help lift the drying tarps, shake out the damp tunics, and rehang the tools on their pegs. It's a good kind of business, simple, unhurried. Then word comes, a visitor, an official from the ward office, here to deliver commendations. You all line up in a crooked, half-dressed row, brushing soot from your sleeves, adjusting your belts, trying to look like you haven't just been debating whether rice crackers should be considered a food group. The official bows, offers a scroll, and says a few words about bravery and duty. You bow back, hold your posture, and suppress the urge to sneeze. After he leaves, someone opens the scroll. It's calligraphy, ornate and formal. Your name is near the top. Torinosuke raises an eyebrow. Guess you're famous now. You smirk. Let's hope the ink doesn't catch fire. The rest of the day unfolds like cloth drying and the breeze is slow, easy, purposeful. You help the younger apprentices refine their knot work, laughing when one of them manages to tie himself to a post. You take a moment to polish your helmet, buffing out a scrape from last week. You rearrange the firehouse's small shrine, lighting fresh incense and leaving a few coins in it for good luck necessarily, but for acknowledgement. You end the afternoon sitting with the captain. He's carving something in animal figure, maybe a badger or a very angry dog. Hard to tell. He doesn't talk much, but he does nod when you sit. You share roasted chestnuts, passing them back and forth without speaking. You did well, he says eventually. You nod. He carves in silence a moment longer, then adds, but next time, check the wind before climbing the northeast roof. You smile. Noted. Evening settles again. The firehouse dims. Lanterns glow. Rain returns, barely more than a whisper, just enough to blur the world into softness. You sit by the logbook one last time and add a note. Quiet day, rain, no fires, clean tools, left. Then you close it. The night is gentle, cool, and peaceful. You stretch, roll out your mat, and lie back, hands behind your head, listening to the slow percussion of water on tile. It was a good day. Not heroic, not fiery, just good. The kind you remember in the quiet corners of your life. The kind that makes the others possible. The city of Edo exhales once more. The rain falls softer now, like silk sliding across old wood. Somewhere in the distance, a chime rings maybe a late temple bell, or a wind toy stirred by the breeze. Either way, it floats in gently, without demand. You're lying beneath a roof held up by beams older than you are, wrapped in the warmth of well-earned stillness around you. The others settle into their own sleep shapes, a quiet shuffle, a half-whispered joke, then silence, deep, true silence. Your breathing slows, and you think just for a moment off the city beyond these walls. All those homes tucked tightly beside each other, like neighbors huddled for warmth. The people inside, safe, for now, because of you, and those before you, and those who will follow. The tools are clean, the buckets are full, the ropes are coiled, and the fire for tonight is sleeping too. The rain kisses the edges of your dreams, soft and steady, like a lullaby that's been sung in every century and every language. And you let go of the weight, of the ash, of the noise, of the heat. You let the quiet carry you, and slowly, gently you drift